morning, good morning. How you guys doing? Welcome back to another Monday session. Nice to have you guys. How's everyone doing today? Good morning, good morning. All right, we got some of your homework today, which we'll definitely be taking a look at a little later. Today's session, we're going to be doing SRE. We have done a bunch, and I have them in the watch list waiting to go. We've done BX was one of them, and as you can see, it's reacting from some demand here on the weekly chart, and based on the momentum and the trend line, we know that price is likely not going to come all the way down here, and if it did, this trend line would be breaking the momentum. So again, logic, right? We knew through concepts and principles that we teach in level 3 that there was a sequence playing out. And the sequence told us that the next chart in play was the daily. And we saw this switch zone and the ascending trend line, and we knew that high degree of certainty this area was going to hold. Okay, and it did. And we weren't surprised by that. All right. Powerful stuff. Indeed. Very, very powerful. Did you get the question? Question was, if price dropped down to the monthly demand key zone this month, what could we wait for? What could we watch for long signal? Or is there something that we could watch for long signal? What would that be? Somebody writes in big letters, no. Another person writes, wait for a move down here to the switch zone over here, and then watch for a move up. Somebody else writes, wait for this daily supply zone to be taken out. Okay, and then drop down to the demand and then go long. One thing that you guys will learn is that when you want to stay in line with truth, what's truth, right? What is truth? Well, it's what's going to come. It's what is reality. And what are we trying to determine here when we're taking this as a potential trade? What's the purpose of doing this analysis? The purpose of doing this analysis is, first of all, to determine if there is a trade. And if there is a trade, how do we know there's a trade? How do we know there's a trade? To be able to determine there's a trade, you have to know, how do you know that? You can't just say, oh, there's a trade here because of this. No, but how do you know that? Once you know it, then you know what you have to watch for, right? And so the further you step outside of what you know to be true, the less likely you're going to stay in line with the truth of that, what the chart is trying to tell you. It's like, you know how they say, don't veer off the path? You walk into a forest and there's a path, right? What happens when you start veering off the path? You know, if you take 5 steps off the path, all right, you look back, you see the path, you can always make it back to the path. It's no big deal. But you start veering off the path into the forest for a little bit too long, and guess what? You're lost. You will not get to your destination. Trading is the exact same way. There's so many things, and this is why I love studying philosophies, because when you understand one thing very well, you understand many things very well. There are things that I understand about the markets naturally because there are things that I understand about my environment, about physics, about, you know, things that I've learned in my life through personal experience. I can apply it to the charts, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's the beauty about philosophy. You understand one thing, you understand everything. A botanist who understands the health of plants and flowers is well equipped to understand the health of a human being because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Plants, no different than human beings. Yes, we have lungs, and yes, we have this, and yes, yes, we look different. But the concepts, the ideas behind them are the same thing. What does a plant need to live? Food and water. Oh, interesting. Doesn't the human being need food and water? Oh, so interesting. Isn't that the same? Right. What else does it need? It needs to be, you see the tests that they've done where they play nice classical music to a plant and it flourishes? Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Several studies have investigated the effects of music on plant growth with a focus on classical music. The results suggest that classical music can have a beneficial impact on plant development. Here are some key findings. How interesting. How interesting. So a plant, you play it classical music and it has beneficial impacts. I've seen documentaries, you play classical music, the plant looks gorgeous. You bombard it with disgusting music that's yelling and screaming and sounds like, it's a domestic violence situation, and the plant looks like garbage. You know, you know that you can walk into somebody's house, look at the plants, and have a good understanding of the dynamic that takes place in that house. If the plants don't look so well, that means they're being neglected. If the plants are not healthy, that means they're not being taken care of. What happens to a person if they're not being taken care of? You don't feed it good quality food, you don't feed it good quality water. What happens? Right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing with plants. You understand plants very well, you understand the human body very well, because this is the exact same thing. That's the beauty of the world that God created. He knew that you wouldn't be able to ever be an expert in everything, but you didn't need to be. If you understood one thing very well, you'd understand many other things, the foundation, at least, of many other things. So once you veer off the path, and this is what happens in our lives. We go to school and they don't teach you the foundation, the true foundation of what you're learning. When you're being told certain things in school about science that aren't necessarily, science, then you're being led astray, because how can you build logic on something that's not based in reality, right? So the reason why I keep stressing veering off the path will lead you to make mistakes in trading is because what I'm about to show to you right now is extremely important. So you missed the question, Dennis. My question was this. We did some analysis, right? Which came to the conclusion of what? That we should wait for some type of momentum shift to take place off of this demand area, right? Do you remember why we said that? What was the reason why? We just went through it in class. What was the reason why? We did the analysis. We determined that there wasn't a proper trend, right? This wick here we didn't really like. We don't like the fact that it's coming back down so quickly. All that stuff, right? So, but why would we even be watching for a momentum shift off of that? What would need to happen to even be watching for a momentum shift? What would make it even valid to watch for a momentum shift if price to watch for a momentum shift off of that key zone? You would need to have a valid key zone. What does that mean? That means price would have to consolidate away from that demand zone, first of all. If it doesn't consolidate away from that, you don't even have a demand zone. So if you don't even have a demand zone because price retraces to that area, then watching for anything on the daily chart is going to get you in big trouble. Why? Because you're skipping ahead. You're veering off the path that you should be staying on. Our path tells us to stick with the monthly time frame. You go on any other time frame without this monthly time frame being valid, you're in trouble. If that monthly key zone does not become valid, then you better not be looking at any other time frame, because if you are, you're going to get hurt. Okay. It's like when I'm walking in my path in my forest, you know, even though it's my own property, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen, I've lived on my property for 8 years. I haven't seen uh, 97% of my property. Okay. There's little nooks and crannies. I got 38 acres. There's little nooks and crannies in that forest that I have never, my eyes have never seen, because there's just too much to see. And I veered off the path once, and I said to myself, I won't do that again, not without a proper uh, method of getting back to the path. Because once you veer off that path, boy, oh, you get lost in a heartbeat. I didn't think it was going to be that easy to get lost in the forest. It is that easy to get lost in the forest. And I'm pretty good with directions. You can put me in a, you can put me in any type of city in a car or walking. You know, I go up this street, turn left, turn right, turn right, turn left, turn right. I pretty much know I'm heading west. You know, I kind of have that gauge. In a forest, forget about it. You walk through the forest, you swerve through a few trees and a couple stones, and you're gone. You're lost, unless you look up and you know where the sun is and all that nonsense. But if you don't have that, you're lost. You don't know where north, south is. Gone. So you stay on the path. And this is what I do with trading. I stay on that path. If the chart is telling me this is the path, my friend, stay on the monthly, then I stay on the monthly. If it doesn't validate, then I do not look on the daily. No siree, Bob. You might get lucky. This might break and then produce a supply and then come up and then produce a demand and then use that demand and facilitate. You might get lucky, and that might happen. But you wouldn't want to record that in your journal and say, oh, I did this and that and it worked. It only worked because you were lucky. And you would never be able to replicate this consistently. And to be a successful trader, you have to replicate something consistently and consistently make profits. Because you do this 3 times and then you do this one time, you know, this is going to take away from the profit of the one where you did it right. So I'd rather just apply what I know to be true and apply, you know, the most conservative uh, strategy, stick on the path, and you're going to get consistent results. This is where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades in a row, which are just a killer. They all seem to work. Like all the great trades that I took on stocks this year, they all worked because I was patient and I waited for the sequence to come into play, and I knew what time frame to be watching for, and I just stuck with that. I didn't do anything fancy, and that's it. And they all worked. And the ones that didn't, I was too eager to skip through a sequence. What was the one? I'll never forget. I still have a position on it. Here, right here, when I took the trade off of that, okay, right here on the weekly, when really the chart was telling me monthly, but I didn't see that at the time. It was telling me it, but I was too eager to just to take a trade here. And it worked a little bit and then it didn't. Why? Because it was retracing to the monthly, and the monthly worked. Okay. When you're patient and you're looking at the charts and you listen to what they tell you and you do as they say, you make money. Monthly time frame. Yeah, as I mentioned, I wouldn't have drawn that, but okay, I see why you did, but I personally wouldn't have. Here, yes. Yeah, and it looks like there is an argument to be made for drawing it like this, for sure. 100%. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are correct. Because that's a one candle doji, right? Because the green one we've already determined to the left of it is a border candle. So it's not part of the basing. When you have a one candle doji, as long as it's not too large, you could draw the zone from the top of the wick to the bottom of the wick. And look, it already came down so much. So it's kind of already saying that this may not be the best chart to go long in. Yeah, well spotted, my friend. Weekly chart, yeah, messy. And he pushed the zone forward. Emotional wick, yeah, but this green candle took it out. I double checked. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have drawn supply there. That doesn't look like supply to me because the way it's shaped, you know what I mean? It led it led me to going and doing analysis on the daily chart. No, I wouldn't draw demand up there. I wouldn't do that. As like a momentum candle with a little extra wick on the top, but I wouldn't draw demand up there. No supply up there. Hello? How do I? Oh wow, look at that. Jeez. Why can't that go forward? What's going on here? That was weekly. Let's go daily. The one up here produces a supply. I would draw supply up there. I wouldn't draw demand here, no. I wouldn't do that one. I don't think the banks are creating any trend lines. Yeah, exactly. Good observation. On this time frame, big momentum candles to the upside. Yeah, I'm gonna sneeze. Ooh, bless me. The price action in blue circle above, not for sure if I did it correct with the supply and demand zones drawn. If they are supply and demand zones, difficult price action area for me. Yeah, I would just leave it alone. All-time highs were up here. Yeah, there could be something there. But this thing here doesn't look right. This one here, this green one here. It's a ranging area. I know demand and supply zones are created and taken out a lot. Please explain this section of price action. Yeah, I wouldn't, for that to be demand, there'd have to be something here. I didn't find any supply zones here. Took price to new highs, just potentially something here.